DAKY Whitetails, another episode of Chasing a Dream. I went fishing this morning, did pretty good. I caught a few specks, had a few more taken by a shark. I'll tell you more about that later, and I'll post a picture of my fish. I know isn't hunting related, but at least I'm outside. Well, with that, I'm out here practicing now. Hotter than Hades, but what the heck. Because I'll be out there in Kentucky, hopefully opening day, and that opens up in September 7th. Like I said, anybody else that wants to do this, get in touch with me, shoot me a text. I've talked about it before. Go back to some of my other vlogs that I have or videos that I have. I talk about trying to get somebody to come out there. Like I talked about before, all I need is help getting there. I live here in Houston. Blah, blah, whatever. Well, anyway, so I'm out here practicing. What I'm starting to do now, I put a piece of tape on my target out there about 30 yards. It's about a foot, about 12 inches long. And I got a dot in the middle. And I'm trying to figure out how bad my drop is around 30. Because that's really all I'll shoot in 30 yards. I don't like to shoot. I did shoot one not too long ago at about 40 yards. But it was one of those things, I aimed high on the deer, high on his back. And I knew it was going to drop pretty good. If anything, I said, I was going to float the dot above his back, and I've done that before, but I don't like it because a lot of times, and I've noticed on other videos, that you end up hitting high on the deer, and I hate a high hit. High hit is usually a wounded deer or a dead deer, and good luck finding it. So I don't like to do that, but this time what I did, I put it like right on where his loins are, even like just behind his shoulder, and I aimed right there. I said, if anything, I'll shoot underneath. As luck would have it, I drilled that deer. I drilled him. But to show you why I don't like to shoot 40 yards, and I've heard people say, oh, you can shoot 50, 60, whatever, and I don't believe it, because these things are just too slow. This bow here is shooting like 281. It's a Hoyt Charger, 70-pound Hoyt Charger. I got a VTech that shoots, it's an 80-pound VTech, shoots a little over 300 feet a second, but I still don't like, because there's too much time for that arrow, especially if a deer's nervous, or to jump the string or to react. And what happened when I shot him at 40, and I shoot small broadheads, and I think that paid dividends with this too. And I talk about shooting a smaller broadhead, unlike them like giant 2-inch rages or 2.5-inch rages. And why? When I shot, the deer was dead broadside from me. He was walking down through the woods, and he hit a little swale in there that I could see pretty good. And it's another reason why I shot. I was already drawn. Everything was ready to go. And when I shot, he must have spun, and I'll post a picture. I caught him in the last rib back. He must have spun to run down the hill. And I lucked out, and luckily, actually I caught him in the liver. It hit him in the liver, just past the ribs. And that arrow went up, and it lodged itself in the opposite shoulder. And I credit Small Broadhead for doing that, because if I didn't, I'd have hit that deer. Even, I think, probably I caught him more in the gut than anywhere. And I'd have never found that deer. But that broadhead went in, like, sort of like in the front of the stomach, up through the liver, and it lodged itself. It tore out one lung, and I found him about 80, 90 yards at the bottom of the hill. I didn't look for him that night. I went the next morning and found him at the bottom of the hill, stone dead. He was dead probably that night. So that's why what I'm doing here, I'm practicing to try to find that sweet spot where I can go from 0 to like 30 yards. I might have to take my 20-yard pin, because I do use a single pin, and I'm going to take my 20-yard pin, and I might have to bump it up a tiny bit, so I'm still in that kill zone. It's the only thing that's hard to do a lot of times, where people don't like doing it, because you don't hit bullseyes now. You'll hit within my fist or a baseball, and that's kind of my goal, keeping it in his lungs. From 0 to my 30, 35 yards, so I could keep the pin on that deer, where in the kill zone, and kill it. With that, DAKY Whitetails, bodies and bows. Get out there and practice, and talk to you guys later.